Welcome to the FAM Podcast, a series where we dive deep into the journeys and minds of the creators shaping our cultural landscape today. Today, we are privileged to have Artemis Orion, a genre-fluid musical artist whose dreamlike soundscapes blend indie electronic, dream pop, alternative, and synthwave to create uniquely textured emotional experiences. She recently released her EP Colorful Nightmares on Anjuna Deep's Explorations label in December 2024 and is currently working on a series of music videos to accompany it. A true multi-hyphenate, Artemis writes, performs, produces, mixes, and masters all of her own music. Please welcome Artemis Orion.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
So we're excited because you're playing in just a few hours here at FAM tonight. And, you know, we have a mutual friend, your manager is a buddy of mine who first introduced me to your music. You know, something that really struck me when listening to it was just how diverse the sound was. Something I'm always curious about when we have artists perform at our events is, you know, how did you come up with this sound? Like, where did this journey, how did it lead you to coming up with your own unique sound? Because it's so different from anything else that's out there.
Yeah, it's been a long journey coming to that sound. I feel like it's just like a hodgepodge of all the genres that I've listened to. And like, when I started listening to music more like cognizantly with like lyrics and like arrangement and instrumentation and like story, I started out with like alternative rock. And then from there, I moved into like indie folk and like dark atmospheric things. And then I had a little like pop phase. And then that turned to the like synth pop and like synthwave. And then I honestly didn't get into like dance music until 2015, a little late bloomer. But then that started to shape like the sounds that I liked more into that like dance world. And so I feel like when I started working on the Colorful Nightmares EP, I think Wake was probably the verse song that I produced a few years ago. And it actually started like super down tempo and like almost kind of lo-fi. And then I started like bumping up the BPM, like, okay, I need a little more like energy, a little more like sauce. And I started pulling from like the dark indie influence, but also kind of like that synthwave soundscaping. And I think like, I want to say one of the artists that I reference a lot is Bon Iver, and his lyricism is just so like you don't know what he's talking about at first until you really like delve into it. And his soundscaping is just so like dark and like electronic, but also like raw in, I don't know, like combining the electronic and like the analog sounds with, like the sounds of real instruments, like the guitar and like, the drums being like a tapping on a desk or like tapping on a mug kind of thing. So just kind of bringing in those, what do you call it? Like those raw, like elements like that. And it really helped shape that. Honestly, like all of the songs on the EP have so many versions before the ones that you can hear now. And it's really crazy, like hearing the finished product and then like hearing demo one and how different it is.
Totally, especially as someone who like oscillates between so many genres. It's like you're almost like applying a different filter to each song, because ultimately it's the song, but the presentation of the song is different based on the genre mood that you're in at the time.
And I think I want to say the biggest thing that influenced the final sound is the visual representation that I wanted to bring to it. I love film. I minored in film in college and just love like the storytelling in that kind of world. And so I'm like, okay, here's where the music video comes in. Like, what mood do I want to portray when it comes to making the music video? And I wanted to still have like this kind of like somber feeling to it, kind of sad, but also I wanted it to have a little bit of tension. And so like with Wake, it went from like, I don't know, probably like 100 BPM to like 130. And then it like brings more of that tension and kind of like, I don't know, maybe like a thriller kind of genre.
Yeah.
And, like the drop with just all the drums and then like putting the synth in there is adding more of that tension. Like it's not necessarily sad, but it's more so like almost like foreshadowing, like something's happening, something's about to transform. And I wanted to have that in the songwriting of the production and reflect that furthermore with the music video, which that's the one music video I have done, and we filmed it on Super 8. And so I'm excited about it.
Yeah. I want to get into, your love of videos in a second, but, coming back to the genre fluidity, if you will, like take us a step back to, I guess, your upbringing or childhood. When do you have a memory of the first songs, the first bands, the first albums you really got into? Was it a parent or a friend in school or a sibling that really got you into music early on?
I want to say the very earliest memory, of course, like when you're a toddler and your parents are like singing like nursery rhymes to you.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. But then when I started getting older, and when I mean older, I was probably like 8 or 7. My parents always listened to oldies, like when we're in the car doing like road trips. And so it's a lot of like, my mom loves like 70s, like disco. She loves like the Bee Gees. And my dad loves like Elvis and some of like the country, like folk songs. So that's where I kind of get my folk and acoustic roots. But on my own, I feel like I started developing my own taste when I started watching MTV and I was 8 years old. I was watching like MTV and VH1. This is also where my love for music videos came about too, obviously. And so every morning before school, 5 a.m., turn the TV on, put on like VH1 Jumpstart or like MTV. And the first bands that I loved were like kind of like the emo rock scene. So like Evanescence, I loved. Who else? I think early on, like early Death Cab for Cutie, whenever I Will Follow You Into the Dark was like super popular. Who are some other artists when I was younger? Evanescence is like the biggest one. Like watching the music videos and also just her voice is so captivating. I think that was when I was like, I want to do this too.
Yeah.
I want to make these music videos. I want to like be a front woman in a band and like also like kind of play a character in a way too. Just like portraying stories and be like a storyteller. So yeah,
it's incredible how much MTV had such an outsized impact on just like our specific generation. Almost like right around the dawn of like the internet age. Now it's like everyone has every genre at their fingertips. It's much easier to be genre fluid today because you have everything at your fingertips than it was back in the day. And MTV was actually the first portal to an afternoon where you could have your Evanescence, but you could also have, your Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, right? Two completely different genres all in the same, TRL program.
Yeah.
No, it's really fascinating to hear that. And so you were super inspired early on. You were totally into these different bands. Evanescence inspired you to be a front woman. Like, at what point do you want to pick up an instrument? Was it your voice that you developed first? Was it production? Like, how did you get into music making?
Definitely the voice was first. And of course that came from Amy Lee and her amazing singing. I started picking up instruments around 10 and mostly because of some other bands. So like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and like just hearing, like the guitar riffs that they write and how fun they are. I was like, I want to learn how to play this stuff. And That's so awesome. I literally I took lessons for a few months, but then I got so lazy, like I never go home and practice, which is such a bad habit. So I ended up stopping lessons and just kind of learning on my own by like looking up chords, looking up like tabs on guitar tabs. When you have the internet on your fingertips, like you can just do whatever, you can learn whatever.
Yeah, totally.
At your fingertips. You don't necessarily like have to go to a teacher nowadays.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I went to the internet, watched YouTube videos, how to play songs on the piano, how to play songs on the guitar. And then I used to like cover songs on electric guitar too, and also acoustic guitar. And that's mostly how I learned. And same with piano. I want to say the earliest production was not GarageBand. It's GarageBand.
GarageBand.
Yeah, GarageBand. On an iPad, the first iPad Gen 1.
Free DAW,
For
right?
real. Yeah. And so the same bands, I feel like the first song I ever produced was actually a Panic at the Disco song called Time to Dance. And I was like, I love this song so much. I want to recreate it for fun.
That's
on
awesome.
GarageBand. And so I just started listening to the different elements, like the bass, the guitar, the drums, and just kind of redid all the melodies on there. And, for GarageBand in 2000, I don't even know, maybe 2008 or 9, it sounded decent.
Yeah.
It sounded like a good GarageBand cover of a song. But then I think I super got into production honestly when I was 20. Really diving into it and getting into the nitty-gritty of producing and the more techier side of audio. So a little late bloomer there, but around the age of 12 and 14 was the GarageBand days.
Yeah, no, and it's a great way to start playing with, making music on a computer, right? I think that's such a formative experience for so many producers. And it's so funny to hear you say that you started out by trying to remake a Panic at the Disco song.
Yeah.
Because so much of just art in general is starting first with, imitating before we can actually start innovating and making our own music.
So true.
And now I tell my producer friends, or not even my producer friends, but my friends who are trying to get into production, they're like, what's the fastest way for me to learn Ableton or learn Logic or learn how to produce music? And I tell everyone, take a song that you love, that you know by heart really well. Throw that song into your session and just start learning how to reproduce that song.
Yeah.
Because that's the fastest way to start learning the tools. And ironically, that's also one of the best ways of just learning any new form.
Yeah.
So you write, sing, and now you produce your music as well. And that's just on the musical side. I think what's really fascinating about you, not just as a musician, but as an artist as well, is you have this entire visual side of your art as well with the videos that you're making. You talked a little bit about growing up watching music videos on MTV.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you got into video as a medium for expressing your art as well.
Kind of the same thing with the dawning of YouTube. On the internet again. I was definitely a little underage to be uploading videos to YouTube myself, but a lot of people, I guess a lot of preteens were doing it at the time. And so it's the same thing. You're kind of imitating music videos. You're finding a song that you love and you're making a fun YouTube video to it and then just posting it. And it's honestly really crazy thinking about YouTube when it first started because it felt so barren.
Yeah.
And it felt so small. And I remember there were competitions too. There would be a YouTube channel that's oh, I'm hosting a music video competition for this song. Everyone send your submissions and I'll pick a winner kind of thing. No one does that nowadays, to be honest. But that's kind of how it started. And I started to slowly get my friends involved. I would make short films, during my birthday parties and have all of my friends act in it. And then I have my 3 best friends since kindergarten who also love acting and love music. And that's how we play, I guess, is we just started making music videos and then posting them on YouTube, from middle school throughout high school.
Yeah.
And it was just so fun. It was all play and it was all for our favorite songs at the time. And that's really how it started. And once I started going to or like late high school when I started writing more of my own music and posting it on SoundCloud, sometimes I would just also post a YouTube video and like a music video, but it would literally just be like slow motion of me like twirling in the forest, like just something so simple and like innocent like that. And then once I got to college, I started developing more of that mindset of like, okay, like let's kick it up a notch. Like really delving into like film and like storytelling in that way. And, like the use of like metaphors and things, like everything just being so intentional. And once I started thinking more like that, it really shaped the storytelling more to be something where it's like there's something on the surface, but if you like scratch and dig a little deeper, there's like even more. Like, you're watching it and it's the tip of the iceberg. And then if you want to dive in more, you have this whole thing like below the ocean.
Yeah.
That's like, wow.
It's interesting because, you talk so much about how, or implicit in what what you've been sharing is that, you are a product of the generation that is YouTube, right? You grew up with the YouTube platform in the same way you grew up with MTV and how MTV shaped your music and how YouTube has shaped your video creation. Today, video still exists on YouTube, but the format has shifted to being much shorter, much more, it's everything's TikTokified for
Oh my
you.
God.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm so curious, like as someone who got into the game, if you will, of digital media creation in an era where YouTube imbued a patience upon the viewer, where it's par for the course to sit for 2 minutes to watch a video.
Yeah.
Now you have 3 seconds to hook somebody, and then you have maybe 8 seconds to, before they swipe.
Yeah.
How has the format changed you as a creator as well?
A lot of ways. It's definitely gotten me to create things more, well, I mean, just like when you capture something captivating, to kind of you put it in the forefront instead of like doing like a slow build up to it. That's definitely how today's like short form and especially like TikTok has shaped that. Or even just like when you're taking like a long form like music video, just finding that good middle to make into those like 5 seconds where it's like, okay, this is the tip of the iceberg that I want to show and try to capture someone's attention. And then if they want to dive more into it, like watch the whole music video, then there's, the bottom of the iceberg kind of thing. It's definitely making me think more about, I don't want to say like commercially, but commercially in a way where it's like, okay, what's the most interesting part of this music video or whatever I made? And, the part that I want to show first to someone who doesn't know who I am or like what I do. Whereas back in the day, you just make the whole thing and just post the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's just there. And nowadays it's like you have to take something smaller from something big and show that first. And then that person or the audience or viewer will decide if they want to dive into it more.
Yeah.
So it's like, like cutting.
Yeah, it requires a certain concision, if you will, and it's almost like front loading the chorus.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I had a similar conversation with another buddy at some point about his music, and so much of music is about like there's an intro and there's a verse and there's a chorus. And what's funny is back in the 50s and 60s, if you listen to a lot of early Beatles, they would front load the chorus as like the first thing that happens in the song. Like, the song Help, I need somebody. They would
so ahead of their time.
Hard Day's Night, right? It would be like, boom, here's the chorus, and then they get into it, right? And what's fascinating is, that was because of the format back then, which was like, short form radio. Then we evolved into like longer songs, and then you had prog rockers with super long intros before they get to it. And now we're almost coming back to this like much shorter attention span, generation where it's for video, you have to like front load the chorus, if you will, metaphorically. I'm curious how that change of attention span, if you will,
Mhm.
has made you think about the way you approach music making?
Mhm.
Not just video making, but music making.
Mhm. Mhm. Let me think, because a lot of my songs have an intro and like a slow
Yeah.
build. Um, I feel like it hasn't, when it comes to production, I'm pretty linear still. Unless I'm like writing with someone else, then it's almost like every time it's like, okay, what's the hook? What's the chorus? What's the big moment in the song? And then everything builds around that.
Yep.
Whereas when I'm by myself, it always starts from the beginning most of the time. Unless I have like a hook that just came up in my mind, I just like voice memo it and then revisit it later. But most of the time, if I'm in the studio and I have like a nice sound on the keyboard or the synth, I just kind of like, I still play it and catch a vibe and then record it. And then, you know, like for the time being, copy paste to write something over it. And it's still linear. I feel like it hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
That.
It's so funny that you said that, when, except for when I'm collaborating.
Yeah.
What is it about collaboration that's like, you know what, let's just write a hook. Let's just write the chorus now. What is it about writing alone that's like, you know, I'm just gonna make this my expose, my diary. This is something, you know, I've heard with other musical friends as well, where they're like, yeah, when I'm in a session, we're just like, let's just write a bang chorus.
Yeah.
You know, what is it about collaborating that's like, you know, why couldn't we collaborate and just meander?
Right. Well, it always depends on who you're collaborating with.
Yeah.
Because I have sessions that are like sync related and totally not Artemis Orion, and then I do have sessions that are like Artemis Orion. And I feel like it's kind of like energy, like keeping the energy right from the beginning and keeping everyone in the room like excited about creating and like what we're creating, or, you know, what we could create. And I feel like when it comes to writing in a room with people, writing the hook or the chorus or like the main idea helps everyone kind of like be on the same page of like, okay, what's the song about? Because the chorus is like the heart of the song. And sometimes it's like, you know, when you're writing verses, you're like, okay, what are we talking about? It's like, we don't know. We got to get to like the main idea first, which is always in the chorus. And it's just kind of like that one thing that unites and gets everyone on the same page.
Don't want to bury the lead.
Yeah. And that's just kind of how it is. I think it's kind of rare where you know, songwriting is more linear with other people, I feel like. So I genuinely think that's what it is. It's just, you want to get to the heart to it and also like keep the energy up. And it just gives you a better idea of where to go for the rest of the song. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So where are you going next? What's next for you?
So after New York, I actually have an acoustic show in LA.
Oh, nice.
I'll be playing in the Viper Room for a little like 30-minute acoustic set that I have not prepared yet. But it'll be fun. I've been trying to actually find, I guess, like other people to accompany me, because it's kind of getting lonely on stage. Sometimes I'm so used to like performing by myself and being like a one-woman show. And like today we're going to be doing the live set, but with additions of like more live sounds. We got live synths and a live bass. And so I kind of want to bring that to the acoustic side too, where I have, you know, 2 acoustic guitars, or like acoustic guitar and a synth. But mostly it's just me playing and singing. So that's next.
And any new records on the horizon?
Yeah, quite a few. I've been slowly trying to work on an album, and to its nature, a genre fluid album. And so slowly but surely writing those songs, which we're actually going to be playing today, towards the end of the set. And I've been writing a few more like Anjuna deep exploration songs as well. So a little more in like the dance realm. They're all still kind of like in the demo and like rough mix stages. So as far as like a release date, it's still on the horizon, like yet to be exposed. But it's coming.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
And we're so excited to have you tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time, Artemis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers. So much fun.